Hey everyone, welcome back to another tier list. This is one I've been meaning to make for a while now. Obviously, Christopher Nolan's a big director. He's one of my favorites. Just released a new movie, Oppenheimer, which actually is a few weeks old now, but I was waiting to make this list until I'd seen the film, which I saw a few weeks ago. But sorry, I haven't gotten around to making this video until now. So, yeah, it's all 12, I think, Christopher Nolan films that he's made that I'm going to be ranking. He's obviously a huge director. He's had hit after hit pretty much since almost the beginning. And yeah, I pretty much love all of his films bar one, so we'll get into it and rank them because a few of these are going to be probably in a divisive order to where I place them. But yeah, you can rank yours below and we'll see how close we get. So first up on this list we have Batman Begins from 2005, the film that kind of reinvigorated the Batman franchise after George Clooney and Joel Schumacher ruined it. And it is a really good starting point. It's my least favourite in the Dark Knight trilogy, though it's still a really solid film. It's a really solid opening for Batman. Christian Bale's great. Cillian Murphy as Scarecrow was good, but he was probably the least memorable villain for me of the trilogy. Overall, it was a solid film. I like the way they made Gotham actually feel like Gotham in this film. It kind of fell away from that in the following two films, but I do like that about this movie. Though that all being said, I'm going to put it in the A. I think it deserves an A. It's probably lower in the A tier as we get through this video, but I do really like Batman Begins. It's just one though that I never really get around to rewatching that often. So yeah, it's still definitely worth an A though. So this next one's going to be very divisive because The Dark Knight Rises is one of my favourite superhero films of all time. It's going to be an S tier film. A lot of you are probably already annoyed that I put that above Batman Begins, but to be honest, I love this film. It might be a bit bloated and overlong. Some things might not make sense or be too convenient, but you know, it's just really big and really epic and bombastic, and it's just an epic ending to this trilogy, and I think it's the highest high point that it could have been. And Tom Hardy as Bane was just incredible. I remember seeing this film in cinemas just being blown away by it being my favourite superhero film at the time. And yeah, I really love The Dark Knight Rises still. Like, it's 10, 11 years old now, but it still holds up really well. I think it's fantastic. And a lot of people have it at the bottom of their Christopher Nolan tier list, but to be honest, I love this film and I'm just going to keep it in S tier. So next up we have Dunkirk, and this is an excellent film. This is not quite an S, but it's easily a high A tier film. I recently rewatched this, and it's a fantastic war movie. There's very little dialogue, especially in comparison to other Nolan films. It's definitely more of a visual storytelling film, and I like the way it shows three perspectives, all on different time frames throughout the film. It's really clever how it does that, how it deals with time, as is a big theme in pretty much all of Nolan's films. But the movie looks great. It's well acted. It has a very intense soundtrack, and it almost feels like a thriller. Like, it's a war film, but it's the closest war film to a thriller film that I've ever seen as well, I think, because it is quite scary. It does make war feel really, I mean, like, these guys are just stranded here. They're not doing much. There's not that much kind of combat war violence in this movie, but you do get this kind of overarching sense of dread throughout the film, and I think it's a really great and underrated Nolan film, I think. I've really got like more of an appreciation for it after watching it recently than I used to have. But yeah, it's definitely an A tier film, and would highly recommend that one if you haven't seen it, or if you have to revisit it, because yeah, I definitely upped it after watching it last. Next we have Inception. This is a clear S tier film. Like, yeah, everyone's going to put Inception on the S or A tier pretty much. It's a great movie. It has a great emotional payoff at the end. The music's really epic. The cast is great. You know, you've got DiCaprio and Tom Hardy and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Ellen Page, and a whole heap of others. Just a really mind-bending, fantastic sci-fi action kind of film. And yeah, I feel like it gets over-talked a lot. It's really great. I don't have that much to say about it because everyone's already talked it to death pretty much, but it's definitely an S tier film. Next up we have Insomnia. I also recently rewatched this film. Oh, sorry. It's really good for a straightforward procedural kind of police thriller. It's not up to scratch as far as Nolan's other high concept films go, but for what it is, it's a very entertaining film, and it's a solid B tier film. I don't think it's bad at all. I have it on Blu-ray, so I obviously enjoy the film quite a bit. Al Pacino is a great actor. He's really good here. Robin Williams is also a great actor. He's really playing against type here, playing the villain for a change. Instead of, it being like a lighthearted or comedic kind of film, he actually pulls it off really well here. And yeah, I definitely recommend the film. Next, we have another S tier film, and that's Interstellar. I think Interstellar is an excellent movie. I remember seeing it in cinemas, just being blown away by it. I love space travel films, and this is just one of those better ones, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, or more recently Ad Astra as well. I love those kind of concept films where it's just about people traveling through space, and it's like an adventure, and there's wormholes and black holes and different planets exploration and all this kind of stuff. And Interstellar just has a lot of fun with it. There's a lot of cool concepts on these other planets. A fantastic musical score by Hans Zimmer. Probably one of Nolan's more emotional films as far as like an emotional payoff. He doesn't do that too often, but it really works in Interstellar, I think. I think it's an excellent film and has some great filmmaking techniques throughout it. It's just really mind-blowing, as well as the visual effects and the practical effects in it. It's an incredible film. Next we have Memento, and it's another S tier film. This was his first real film, I feel like. He made Following, was his first film, but then Memento is where he really came into his style, I think, and it plays with time again, because the whole film is pretty much told in reverse. It's a more condensed, smaller story, though, obviously being a smaller budget film. But you've got great performances from Guy Pearce and Carrie-Anne Moss, and Joe, I'm not sure what his name is, Joe Pantoliano or something, I think. But they were all really good in this film. It's a really entertaining and interesting film. It's not super complex or hard to wrap your head around once you've seen it, maybe once or twice, but it's definitely a film that you get more from the more times you watch it. So it's definitely S tier. Next, we have the new film Oppenheimer. I was really excited for this. A new Christopher Nolan film is always exciting, and I had high expectations, and I'd heard a lot of great things about it. So after watching it, I'm happy to say that it is another S tier Nolan film. It's like a 3-hour long dialogue driven film where the dialogue's pretty much front and center. It's mostly people in rooms talking. But if you can make a film that is 3 hours of people talking in rooms, an S tier, highly entertaining film, then you've done the job well. And the performances are outstanding. Cillian Murphy really gets a spotlight here to shine. He's been in a lot of Nolan films, but to actually star in one now, he's great here. There's some really intense sequences, especially surrounding the bomb in the middle of the film, that's really white-knuckled and intense, and just, without being like action heavy or anything like that, it still pulls off the same kind of thing, that same kind of feeling that you get from other Nolan films. And it's really good. It's excellent, actually. It's an S tier film. I wouldn't have shortened it. It's 3 hours long. It's excellent. I can't wait to get it on Blu-ray and watch it again and again. It was great. It was great. Next we have Tenet, his second most recent film, and this one's a bit harder to swallow. I'm going to put it in the B tier behind Insomnia. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it. It's just a very confusing and convoluted film, and I don't mind films having high concepts, like he's done it with obviously Inception, Memento, Interstellar and stuff like that. But when it comes to Tenet, I always kind of feel like you need a notepad and pen to kind of, do an exam while you're watching the film so you can work out what's actually going on. And so I think it kind of takes away from the experience a little bit by being a little bit too involved. It's definitely one I have to watch again, but it's not one I ever feel like watching as much as his other films. It looks great. It's got some great sequences, a very interesting concept, but I think it just delves too deep into it and loses most people, myself included. I probably haven't examined it enough like a lot of people have, but for just the general cinema goer and Nolan fan, it is good, but I think it's a little too much. But still, it's a solid B tier film. Next up, we have the reigning crowning jewel of Nolan's filmography, according to most people, and that's The Dark Knight. So The Dark Knight is a fantastic film. It's an obvious S tier movie. I love the film, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, why are you putting it up in the same category as The Dark Knight Rises and that. But I honestly, I love The Dark Knight Rises and I love The Dark Knight. I think they're both excellent. Obviously, Heath Ledger's great as the Joker. The whole film overall is just fantastic. There's nothing wrong with it. It really steps up from Batman Begins. And yeah, it's fantastic. There's not much, like Inception, there's not much more you can say about this film that hasn't been said already. So yeah, The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, in my opinion, are both equally excellent. I love both films. So next up we have Following. This was the first Nolan film. This is the only one, I've seen it once and I've never bothered watching it again because I didn't like it. I'm going to put it in the D tier because I don't think it was trash. It's not an F tier film, but it's not great by any means. I respect that it was his first film, that he had practically no budget working on it. It's cool, but it's not an entertaining film or a rewatchable film by any means. I've tried rewatching it, but I just can't get into it. It's only 70 minutes long as well, so I know there's people that like it, but it's just not for me. It's the only film of his that I'm not into. But yeah, it's okay, I guess. It's a first film. There's nothing super amazing about it, but it does play with some ideas that he would later go into as well. So it's worth checking out if you haven't seen it or if you are a fan. And last but not least, we have The Prestige. This is another excellent film. I'm gonna put it up on the S tier as well because it's fantastic. It's another great film. Christopher, I don't think any other director or many others would have this many S tier films, to be honest. But The Prestige is excellent. It's a great film. Once again, you've got Christian Bale back from the Dark Knight trilogy. You got Hugh Jackman, Scarlett Johansson. It plays in an older, a period piece kind of time period, which most of Nolan's films are in present day. So it's cool to see that about two magicians kind of facing off against each other, and it just keeps building and building to a great climactic ending, and it's a fantastic film. Another one that I have to see again because I haven't watched it in quite a few years, but it is an excellent film. So yeah, not much more to say about any of these films, but look, obviously all the S tier films I love. Even the two A tier films I think are great. The B tier films I really like. So he's pretty much got a really solid all-round filmography besides his first film, in my opinion. He is a very consistent director in that realm. And yeah, I highly recommend him if you haven't seen any or some of his films. Definitely leave your list below in the comments of what your ranking would be, or yeah, whatever like that. So just, yeah, subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.